Emma Williams had built her entire career on a single truth. Love was nothing more than pretty lies, wrapped in expensive flowers. So when her ex-boyfriend asked her to organize his wedding, she accepted without hesitation. It was just business after all. But then she met Oliver Bennett, the groom's cousin, whose deep eyes seemed to see through all the barriers she had built. What happened next would challenge everything she believed about love, destiny, and second chances. Can we really control when and how love enters our lives, or does it always find a way to break through our most carefully constructed defenses? If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. And if it was worth every minute, leave a totally worth it. It helps keep this universe of emotions alive here. Emma Williams always said she organized weddings, not dreams. Her clients paid for perfection, and she delivered exactly that. Flowers in just the right shade, music at the perfect moment, camera-ready smiles and promises that would last at least until the photos came back. Love? Well, love was just another item on the checklist. Nice to look at, profitable to sell, but completely unnecessary for a successful event. That March morning, as she reviewed proposals in her Manhattan office, Emma didn't expect the 10:15 call to change everything. The name on the display made her hesitate for 3 full rings. Josh Martinez. Emma, it's Josh. She knew that voice. 5 years of high school dating leaves marks on your memory, even after a decade. Emma straightened in her chair, her pen stopping mid-note. Josh, what a surprise. I know this might seem weird, but I need your help. He paused, and Emma could almost see him running his hand through his hair, like he always did when he was nervous. I'm getting married. Emma felt a strange pang in her chest. It wasn't jealousy, at least that's what she told herself. It was more like curiosity. Josh had been her first love, her first kiss, her first heartbreak too. Congratulations, she said, keeping her voice neutral. And you're calling me because you're the best wedding planner in New York. And because I trust you. Emma almost laughed. Trust. How ironic. Josh, there are dozens of excellent planners in the city. Why me? Because you know me, he said simply. You know what I like, what I hate, and because I believe you'll do this right. Emma drummed her fingers on the desk. Her schedule was already packed for the next 8 months, but there was something in Josh's voice that intrigued her. And being completely honest with herself, the last few months had been financially tight after 2 millionaire clients canceled their ceremonies. Tell me about the bride, Emma said, surprising herself. Sarah, she's incredible, Emma. She's a pediatrician, works with underprivileged kids, has a smile that lights up any room. Josh spoke with a tenderness Emma had never heard in his voice before. And she's always dreamed of a fairy tale wedding. You know, the kind of thing you used to plan in those notebooks when we were teenagers. Emma felt her chest tighten. She remembered those notebooks, filled with hand-drawn dresses and imaginary floral arrangements, silly dreams of a girl who still believed in happy endings. And what's the budget? Emma asked, getting back to reality. Unlimited. She almost spilled her coffee. What do you mean unlimited? Sarah's cousin Oliver is financing everything. He has resources, and he wants it to be perfect for her. Emma felt a twinge of curiosity about this mysterious cousin, but pushed it aside. Business was business. Josh, I need to be honest with you. Organizing your ex's wedding isn't exactly conventional. I know. But you're professional, I'm professional. Sarah knows about us, about our past, and she's completely fine with it. Actually, it was her idea to reach out to you. That surprised Emma. What kind of woman suggests her fiancé hire his ex-girlfriend to organize their own wedding? She sounds confident, Emma said. She is, and she's right to be confident. We both know you do an incredible job. Emma closed her eyes and sighed. Her rational mind screamed to refuse. It was too complicated, too personal. But her practical mind whispered about pending bills, about the recognition an unlimited budget event could bring, about the chance to prove once again that love was just a well-executed business transaction. I need to meet Sarah, Emma said finally. And this financier cousin. Of course. How about dinner tomorrow? There's a new restaurant in Soho that Sarah's dying to try. Lumiere. Emma knew Lumiere. 3-month waiting list for reservations, wine list that cost more than most people's rent. This cousin Oliver really did have resources. "All right, 8 o'clock. Emma," Josh said before she hung up. "Thank you, really. This means a lot." After she hung up, Emma stared at the phone for a long moment. She'd just agreed to organize the wedding of the first man who'd ever broken her heart. And for some reason, instead of feeling professional and detached, she felt a strange mix of nervousness and anticipation. Maybe it was because, deep down, part of her had always wondered what it would have been like if things had been different with Josh. And now she was going to find out exactly what she'd lost, by organizing the celebration of the choice he'd made, instead of her. Emma took a deep breath and opened her laptop. She had a wedding to plan, and this time more than ever she needed to prove she could separate business from feelings, even though at the moment she wasn't quite sure what the difference between the two was. Lumiere was exactly what Emma expected: soft lighting, intimate tables, and the kind of atmosphere that made people whisper expensive secrets. She arrived 10 minutes before 8, wearing her favorite black blazer, professional armor for an evening that promised to be anything but simple. Josh was at the back table, and Emma recognized him immediately, even after 6 years. The same easy smile, the same brown eyes, but there was something different, a lightness she didn't remember seeing before. Next to him, a blonde woman with an infectious laugh was gesturing animatedly while telling some story. "Emma?" Josh stood up and hugged her, a quick, friendly hug that stirred absolutely nothing in her. "You look great." "Thanks." Emma smiled and turned to the bride. "You must be Sarah." Sarah Chen was exactly as Josh had described. Bright eyes, genuine smile, and that warm energy some people just radiated. Emma felt unexpected relief. It was impossible not to like her. "Emma, Josh couldn't stop talking about you. Seriously, thank you for accepting our invitation." Sarah hugged her like they'd been friends for years. "I know it must be strange, but when Josh told me about your talent, I insisted he call." They'd just sat down when Emma heard a voice behind her, deep and slightly husky. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was impossible." Emma turned around and felt the air leave her lungs. Oliver Bennett was tall. She had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes when he approached the table. Dark hair with silver threads at the temples, broad shoulders under a grey sweater that looked custom-made, and blue eyes that were almost disturbingly direct. But it wasn't just his appearance. There was something about the way he moved, a quiet confidence that filled the space around him. "Oliver, this is Emma Williams," Josh said, standing up. "Emma, Oliver Bennett, Sarah's cousin, and the man responsible for making this wedding possible." Oliver extended his hand, and when Emma touched it, she felt an electric shock travel up her arm. His eyes met hers, and for a moment that lasted an eternity, the restaurant around them disappeared. "Emma," he said, as if testing the name. Josh didn't exaggerate. "It's a pleasure to meet you." "The pleasure's mine," Emma managed to say, pulling her hand away maybe a second too late. Oliver sat down next to her, and Emma immediately became hyper-aware of every movement. The way he folded his napkin, how his fingers drummed lightly on the table, how his cologne, something woody and masculine, seemed to envelop her. "So," Oliver said, turning completely toward her, "Josh tells me you don't believe in love." Emma almost choked on her water. "He said that?" "Not in those exact words," Oliver smiled, and the smile completely transformed his face. "But he mentioned you have a pragmatic approach to romance." "I have a professional approach to my work," Emma corrected, feeling her cheeks warm. "Love is beautiful to watch, but it's not necessary for a successful marriage." "Interesting theory," Oliver said, resting his chin on his hand. "What do you base that conclusion on?" Sarah and Josh exchanged amused looks, clearly picking up on the tension that had settled over the table. 10 years of organizing weddings," Emma replied. "I've seen couples who were madly in love divorce before their first anniversary, and I've seen arranged marriages that lasted 50 years. So, you think compatibility is more important than passion?" "I think passion is temporary. Compatibility is lasting." Oliver laughed, a rich sound that made something strange happen in Emma's stomach. "You talk like someone who's never truly experienced passion." The statement was like a slap. Emma felt the temperature at the table change and saw Josh shift uncomfortably in his chair. "And you talk like someone who's never had to clean up the mess passion leaves behind," Emma shot back, lifting her chin. Touché, Oliver said, still smiling. But answer me this. If love doesn't matter, why do people pay fortunes to celebrate it? Because they're paying for the theater, not the feeling. They want the fantasy, the story to tell, the pretty pictures. I just deliver the show. What a cynical view for someone who creates such beautiful moments. Realistic, not cynical. Oliver leaned slightly toward her, lowering his voice. What if I told you I intend to prove you wrong? Emma felt her heart race, but kept her expression neutral. I'd say you're wasting your time and money. My time and money to waste, Oliver said softly. The waiter appeared to take their orders, breaking the moment of tension. For the rest of dinner, conversation flowed about wedding details, date, venue, guest count. But Emma was painfully aware of every time Oliver spoke, how he listened carefully to her suggestions, how he seemed to study her when he thought she wasn't looking. When Sarah mentioned wanting the ceremony at the Bennett family estate in Hudson Valley, Oliver immediately offered to take Emma to see the location. That's not necessary, Emma said quickly. I can drive up there any weekday. Nonsense, Oliver said. The property has some quirks. It's better if someone from the family shows you around. Oliver's right, Sarah agreed. The place is huge, and there are specific areas that work better for different parts of the ceremony. Emma found herself agreeing, even knowing that spending an entire day alone with Oliver Bennett was probably the last thing her peace of mind needed. When they said goodbye on the sidewalk, Oliver held her hand a moment longer than necessary. See you Saturday then, 9 in the morning. Perfect, Emma said, trying to sound professional. He stepped closer, and for one crazy moment, Emma thought he was going to kiss her. Instead, he leaned in and whispered near her ear, Get ready to have your theories challenged, Emma Williams. Then he walked away, leaving Emma standing on the sidewalk, her heart beating erratically and one question echoing in her mind. What exactly had she gotten herself into? Oliver arrived promptly at 9 in the morning, driving a black Range Rover that looked like it had stepped out of a magazine. Emma was waiting in front of her building, wearing dark jeans and a white blouse, practical, professional, nothing that could be interpreted as an effort to impress. Good morning, fantasy organizer, he said when she got in the car, that provocative smile already in place. Good morning, illusion financier, Emma shot back, fastening her seatbelt. Oliver laughed, and Emma felt that strange sensation in her stomach again. He was wearing jeans and a navy sweater that brought out his eyes, and there was something deeply unsettling about how effortlessly attractive he looked. So, Oliver said as he navigated through Manhattan's morning traffic, tell me about the most disastrous wedding you've ever organized. Why do you want to know? Curiosity, and because we have a 2-hour drive ahead of us. Emma hesitated. It wasn't the kind of question clients usually asked. A politician's daughter's wedding 3 years ago. The bride found out the groom was having an affair with the maid of honor 2 hours before the ceremony. Ouch. What did you do? My job. I quietly cancelled everything, refunded the vendors, and worked out an agreement so the press wouldn't publish the story. Oliver glanced at her, impressed. And emotionally, how did you handle watching someone's heart get shattered right in front of you? The question caught Emma off guard. No one ever asked about the emotional part. It's not my job to handle clients' emotions. It's my job to solve the practical problems. That's pretty cold even for you. It's professional. Emma, Oliver said softly, you can stop hiding behind that word. We're alone here. I'm not hiding. No? Then answer me honestly. Did you feel anything for the bride that day? Emma was quiet for a long moment, watching the scenery pass by the window. Of course she had felt something. She'd seen the desperation in the girl's eyes, the way she'd collapsed when she discovered the betrayal. But admitting that would be pity, she said finally. I felt sorry for her. And anger? Why? At the groom, for ruining what should have been the happiest day of her life. Emma turned to look at him, surprised by the accuracy of his observation. Maybe a little. So you're not as cold as you want to seem. Being empathetic doesn't mean being romantic. I didn't say it did, but it means you care more than you admit. They stopped at a roadside cafe, and Emma took the opportunity to change the subject. What about you? Ever been married? Oliver nearly choked on his coffee. Straight to the point. You started with the personal questions. Touché. No, never married. Came close once. What happened? Oliver stirred his coffee thoughtfully. I found out she was more interested in my last name than in me. Ah, the curse of rich men. You think that's all it is? Emma studied his face. There was something vulnerable in his expression she hadn't seen before. No, she said honestly. I think there's more to it. Much more. But that's a conversation for when we know each other better. The answer created an unexpected intimacy between them, as if he'd just admitted he wanted to know her better. Emma felt her face warm. Back in the car, Oliver put on a playlist that mixed classic jazz with indie folk, and Emma found herself relaxing for the first time in months. There was something soothing about the way he drove. Confident but careful, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the center console, very close to hers. Can I ask a possibly inappropriate question? Oliver said, as they were approaching Hudson Valley. You can ask, I'm not promising to answer. Josh, do you still feel anything for him? Emma looked at him, surprised by his directness. No. Are you sure? Positive. Josh was... He was an important lesson about why mixing feelings with expectations is dangerous. He hurt you. It wasn't a question. He was young and stupid. We both were. But he hurt you, Oliver repeated, softer this time. Emma sighed. He let me believe in things that weren't real, and when reality hit, it was brutal. And since then, you've decided reality is safer than hope. Reality is more reliable than hope. Oliver stopped the car at the entrance to a property that looked like something out of a movie. Ornate iron gates opened onto a tree-lined drive bordered by century-old oaks. Emma, he said, turning to her before continuing to drive. Yes? What if I told you I plan to show you that hope and reality can coexist? Emma felt her heart race again. I'd say you're being pretty presumptuous for someone who's known me less than a week. Oliver smiled, that smile that was starting to do dangerous things to her breathing. Presumptuous is my middle name. And what's your first name? Arrogant? Determined, he said, and there was something in his voice that made Emma believe he wasn't just talking about weddings. As they drove down the tree-lined avenue toward the mansion, Emma wondered if accepting this job had been the smartest or stupidest decision of her life. With Oliver Bennett, she was beginning to suspect both things were true. The Bennett mansion emerged between the trees like something out of a period dream. Light limestone, enormous windows with white frames, and a veranda that stretched across the entire front facade. Emma got out of the car and for a moment completely forgot she was there for work. My God, she whispered. Built in 1847 by my great-great-grandfather, Oliver said, clearly pleased with her reaction. He made his fortune importing fabrics from Europe and decided he needed a house worthy of his ambitions. Emma walked slowly toward the entrance, her eyes catching every detail. The gardens were impeccable, but in a natural way, as if nature had decided on its own to be perfect there. Oliver, this is... She turned to him, momentarily forgetting her defenses. It's absolutely stunning. There was something in his expression when she said that, surprise perhaps, as if he wasn't used to seeing that kind of genuine admiration on her face. Want to see the inside? The house was even more impressive inside. Dark wood floors, polished until they gleamed like mirrors, marble fireplaces in almost every room, and a central staircase that curved elegantly to the second floor. But what impressed Emma most was how everything seemed lived in. It wasn't a museum. It was clearly a home where real people had laughed, fought, loved, and created memories. The library, Oliver said, opening double French doors to reveal a room that took Emma's breath away. Walls covered with books from floor to ceiling, a massive fireplace, leather armchairs that seemed to have sheltered generations of readers, and enormous windows overlooking the back gardens. Sarah wants to do the vows here, Oliver said, watching Emma explore the space. It's perfect, Emma murmured, already visualizing where to position the chairs, how the afternoon light would come through the windows, where to place the flowers. Absolutely perfect. They spent the entire morning touring the property. Oliver showed her the ballroom where the reception would take place, the gardens where they'd have cocktails, the terrace where the band would be positioned. With each new space, Emma felt more impressed, not just with the beauty of the place, but with how Oliver knew every story, every detail. "My great-grandmother planted these rose bushes," he said, when they stopped in the rose garden. "She used to say a wedding was only real if it happened surrounded by flowers that had witnessed at least 3 generations of love." Emma touched a red rose that was blooming perfectly. "Do you believe that?" I believe she believed it, and that it made her happy for 52 years of marriage. Or maybe she was happy because she chose her husband well. Oliver laughed. "You don't give up, do you? Consistency is a virtue. Stubbornness can be one too." Around noon, they took a lunch break on the back terrace. Oliver had prepared a basket, gourmet sandwiches, fruit salad, and a bottle of white wine that was perfectly chilled. "You planned this," Emma said, surprised. "Guilty. I thought you'd get hungry after 3 hours of walking." Emma sat in the chair he pulled out for her, trying to ignore how the simple, chivalrous gesture made her stomach flutter. "So," she said, accepting the wine glass, "tell me about yourself. Besides financing weddings and collecting historic properties." "I work in sustainable urban development. I buy old buildings in small towns and transform them into community spaces, libraries, art centers, affordable housing." Emma nearly choked on her sandwich. "Really? Why do you sound so surprised?" Because that's not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Emma hesitated. "Hedge funds, or something equally soulless." Oliver burst out laughing, a genuine sound that made Emma smile involuntarily. "Soulless? Is that how you see me?" "No," Emma said quickly, then stopped. Why was she rushing to soften it? "I mean, I don't know you well enough to know how you are. So you're judging me based on what? Appearances, resources, the fact that you can finance an entire wedding without blinking? And that automatically makes me soulless?" Emma put her sandwich down on the plate, suddenly unable to eat anymore. "Not automatically, but in my experience, men with a lot of money tend to what? Use that money as a substitute for real things, intimacy, commitment, vulnerability." Oliver was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine in his glass. "What if I told you I have money because it allows me to do things that matter? Like keeping this property in the family, or turning an abandoned building in Detroit into a community daycare?" Emma studied him. There was sincerity in his voice that she couldn't pretend not to hear. "I'd say that maybe I judged too quickly." "Maybe," Emma smiled, a small smile but genuine. "Definitely too quickly." After lunch, they walked through the back gardens, discussing logistics, where to set up tents in case of rain, how to organize parking, what would be the best angle for sunset photos. But as the afternoon progressed, professional conversations mixed with personal stories. Oliver told her about his childhood spent mostly in this house, running through the hallways with cousins during family gatherings. Emma found herself sharing memories from college, disastrous first jobs, the decision to start her own business. When the sun began to set, they were sitting on the front porch steps, 2 empty wine glasses between them and an ease in conversation that Emma hadn't felt in years. "We should head back," Emma said, checking her watch. "It'll get dark soon." "Or," Oliver said, standing up and extending his hand to her, "you could stay for dinner. There's a little restaurant in town that makes the best osso buco in the region." Emma looked at the extended hand, then at his face. There was something in Oliver's eyes, expectation, hope, and a vulnerability he wasn't trying to hide. Accepting would be crossing a line, turning a workday into something personal, intimate, dangerous. Emma took his hand. "Osso buco sounds perfect." The restaurant was small and cozy, with weathered wooden tables and candles that flickered in the breeze coming through the open windows. Oliver had reserved a corner table, away from the few other couples dining on this Saturday night. "How did you find this place?" Emma asked, cutting into the osso buco that was indeed incredibly delicious. "My grandmother used to bring me here when I was a kid. The owner, Giuseppe, is from the same family for 3 generations. Oliver pointed to an elderly man behind the counter who waved warmly. "He still asks when I'm going to bring a ragazza speciale to meet him." Emma nearly choked on her wine. "And have you?" "You're the first." The simplicity of the answer made something strange happen in Emma's chest. There was no pretension, no attempt to impress, just honesty. "Why?" she asked softly. Oliver stopped eating and looked directly at her. Because you're the first person in a long time who makes me want to share things that matter to me. Emma felt her face warm. The conversation had taken too intimate a turn, too quickly. Oliver, relax, he said, smiling. I'm not declaring eternal love. I'm just being honest. Honesty can be dangerous. Only if you're hiding something worth protecting. Emma took a large sip of wine, trying to organize her thoughts. The problem was that he was right. She was hiding something. The fact that, for the first time in years, she was genuinely interested in a man. And that terrified her. When they finished dinner, it had started to rain. Not a heavy downpour, but the kind of persistent drizzle that makes it dangerous to drive on winding country roads. We can wait for it to pass, Oliver said, looking out the window. Or I can call an Uber. To Manhattan. It'll cost a fortune, and it'll take at least 2 hours to get here. Giuseppe approached their table, gesturing toward the window. Oliver, mio caro, sta piovendo forte. It's dangerous to drive tonight. Oliver turned to Emma. The house has plenty of spare rooms. You could stay the night and we'll head back tomorrow morning. Emma hesitated, staying the night at his place alone after a day that had already blurred all the professional lines she'd tried to maintain. I promise exemplary behavior, Oliver said, as if reading her thoughts. Cross my heart. An hour later, they were back at the mansion, soaked from the run from the car to the porch. Oliver lit the fireplace in the library, while Emma tried to dry her hair with a towel he'd brought. Want something to drink? Hot chocolate? Cognac? Hot chocolate sounds perfect. When Oliver returned from the kitchen with 2 steaming mugs, Emma was sitting on the floor in front of the fireplace, barefoot, her legs folded beneath her. She'd taken off her blazer and was just in her blouse, her damp hair falling in waves over her shoulders. Oliver stopped in the library doorway, as if he'd been punched in the stomach. Are you okay? Emma asked, noticing his expression. I am, he said, regaining his composure and sitting down next to her. It's just, you look... I look what? You look at home here. Emma looked around, at the shelves full of books, the crackling fireplace, the rain gently beating against the windows. He was right. For the first time in years, she felt completely relaxed. It's a special place, she said. It is. But it's not just the place. Emma turned to look at him and found his eyes already fixed on her. There was something in his expression that made her heart race, an intensity that hadn't been there during dinner. Oliver, dance with me, he said suddenly. What? Dance with me. Here, now. There's no music. There's the rain, there's the fireplace. That's music enough. Before Emma could protest, Oliver stood up and extended his hand. And for the second time that day, she found herself accepting when she should refuse. He pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other intertwined with hers. They moved slowly, barely leaving their spot, swaying gently to the rhythm of the rain and the crackling flames. Emma could feel the warmth of his body through his shirt, the woody scent of his cologne, the way his breathing changed when she rested her head on his shoulder. Emma, he murmured against her hair. Can I ask you a question? Yes. When was the last time you let someone take care of you? The question caught her completely off guard. Emma pulled back slightly to look at him. I don't need anyone to take care of me. Everyone needs that. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of dependence, and dependence is dangerous. Why? Because people leave, or change, or decide you're not worth the effort. Oliver stopped dancing, his hands resting on her face. Who hurt you this badly? It's not about being hurt. It's about being realistic. Emma. His voice was soft but firm. Who hurt you? Emma closed her eyes, trying to resist the vulnerability his voice was awakening. My father, she whispered. He left us when I was 12. Said he loved our family, that he'd come back. We never saw him again. Oliver pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her completely. I'm sorry. You don't need to be sorry. It was a long time ago, but it still affects you. It taught me important lessons. It taught you to be afraid. Emma pulled away, irritated. It taught me to be independent. Isn't that the same thing? The question hit an exposed nerve. Emma turned toward the fireplace, her arms crossed defensively. I should have stayed in the city. Why? Because this, she gestured between them, shouldn't be happening. What exactly is happening? Emma turned to face him, her eyes bright with frustration and something more dangerous. You know exactly what's happening. Oliver approached slowly, as if she were a frightened animal that might flee at any moment. What if I say I don't care if it's complicated? I'd say you should care. What if I say you're worth the complication? Emma felt her defenses beginning to crumble, and that scared her more than anything. The room was in half light, the crackling of the fireplace filling the silence between them. Emma was standing near the window admiring the fine rain, when Oliver approached from behind and wrapped his arms around her waist, slowly, as if asking for silent permission. She turned around. He looked at her. No words, just gazes. Then he kissed her, with desire but also with respect, as if saying, I see you. His hands held her firmly but carefully. Hers moved up his neck, pulling him closer, their breaths intertwined. Clothes fell slowly. Touches were gentle, as if they were discovering each other's language. When their bodies finally came together, it was more than physical. It was emotional. It was love, stripped of defenses. Emma felt as if, for the first time, she was safe in someone. And Oliver, as if he had finally found what he'd been searching for without knowing it. The next morning they woke up intertwined on the library sofa, covered by the blanket Oliver had grabbed during the night. Emma opened her eyes first, and for a moment, just watched his face relaxed in sleep. Then reality hit her like a slap. What had she done? Emma woke to the sound of birds and the disturbing feeling that her life had completely changed overnight. Oliver was still sleeping, one protective arm around her waist, his breathing soft and steady against her neck. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel the safety of that embrace, the warmth of his body, the intimacy of waking up with someone for the first time in 2 years. Then panic set in. Very carefully, Emma disentangled herself from Oliver's arms and stood up, looking for her clothes scattered across the library floor. Each piece she put on was like rebuilding her defenses, one more barrier between her and the vulnerability of the night before. Running away? Oliver's husky voice made her freeze. Emma turned around. He was sitting up, hair tousled, shirtless, looking at her with an expression that mixed amusement and concern. I'm not running away, I'm getting dressed. Same thing, considering the look of panic in your eyes. Emma sighed, finishing buttoning her blouse. Oliver, about last night. It was incredible. It was a mistake. Oliver stood up and walked toward her, completely comfortable with his partial nudity in a way that made Emma blush. Why was it a mistake? Because we're client and service provider, because it's complicated, because Emma searched for reasons that wouldn't reveal how terrified she was, because it can't happen again. Why not? Because I don't do relationships, Oliver, especially not with clients. Especially not with clients who are financing my ex-boyfriend's wedding. Oliver laughed, a sound that irritated Emma more than it should have. You're listing excuses, not reasons. They're valid reasons. They're valid fears. Different thing. Emma grabbed her purse and Oliver's car keys. Can I drive back to the city? Of course, but that doesn't change what happened between us. Nothing happened between us. It was one night. It was impulse. It was... Emma searched for the right word. It was chemistry. Nothing more. Oliver approached, stopping right in front of her. Look me in the eyes and tell me you didn't feel anything beyond chemistry. Emma stared at him, determined to lie. But something in the intensity of his gaze, in the way he seemed to see through all her defenses, made the words die in her throat. I can't do this, she whispered. Then don't. Before Emma could respond, her phone rang. Sarah. Emma. So glad you answered. I have incredible news about the photographer. Emma stepped away from Oliver, grateful for the interruption. Photographer? Blake Morrison. Do you know his work? He photographed the Los Angeles mayor's daughter's wedding, and that actress who won the Oscar last year. Emma knew Blake Morrison. Everyone in the industry knew him. He was talented, expensive, and had a reputation for being almost as beautiful as the photos he took. Sarah, Blake Morrison is out of our reach. He charges more than some cars. Not this time. He's spending a few months in the area doing a personal project, and when he heard about our wedding through a mutual friend, he offered to photograph it for a fraction of his normal price. He wants to include some photos in an exhibition he's preparing about love in rural America. Emma looked at Oliver, who had put on his shirt and was clearly listening to the conversation. That's unexpected. I know. He's going to call you today to set up a meeting. Emma, are you okay? Your voice sounds strange. I'm fine. Just tired. It was a long day yesterday visiting the property. How did it go? Did Oliver take good care of you? Emma felt her face warm and avoided looking at Oliver. It was very productive. The property is perfect for the wedding. After hanging up, an uncomfortable silence settled between them. So, Oliver said finally, Blake Morrison. Do you know him? By reputation, he has a reputation. What kind of reputation? Oliver hesitated. The kind that mixes business with pleasure, frequently. Emma felt an inexplicable irritation. And what does that have to do with me? Probably nothing. Forget I said anything. But Oliver couldn't forget, and when Blake Morrison called Emma that afternoon, his deep, charming voice over the phone, Oliver felt something unpleasantly similar to jealousy. Emma Williams, Blake said when they met at the cafe she had suggested. Your reputation precedes you. Blake was exactly as Emma had imagined. Wavy dark hair, green eyes, easy smile, and that casual confidence that came from years of being photographed almost as much as he photographed. He wore faded jeans and a leather jacket that looked like it had cost more than Emma's monthly rent. As does yours, Emma replied, extending her hand. Instead of shaking it, Blake brought her hand to his lips, kissing it lightly. Charmed. Emma withdrew her hand, trying to ignore the fact that the gesture had been smooth and professional, not invasive. So, tell me about this project. Blake leaned forward, his eyes shining with genuine enthusiasm. I'm documenting how love manifests in different American communities, small towns, farms, rural communities. I want to capture the authenticity that sometimes gets lost in urban weddings. Emma found herself impressed despite herself. There was real passion in his voice, a love for his work that she recognized. And how does Sarah's wedding fit into that? A traditional American family, a historic property, a love that seems genuine. It's exactly what I'm looking for. They spent 2 hours discussing angles, lighting, timeline. Blake was professional, talented, and clearly knew what he was doing. He was also funny, attentive, and by the end of the meeting, Emma was genuinely excited to work with him. Can I ask a personal question? Blake said as they were saying goodbye. You can ask. Are you involved with anyone? Emma hesitated. Technically, she wasn't. One night didn't constitute involvement. No. Good. Because I'd like to invite you to dinner, to discuss more details of the project, of course. Emma knew it wasn't just about the project, and she knew she should refuse. But there was something about Blake's attention, the way he looked at her as if she were interesting and desirable, that made her hesitate. When? Tomorrow night. Okay. When Emma got home that night, there were 3 messages from Oliver on her phone. She listened to them, deleted them without responding, and tried to convince herself that agreeing to go out with Blake had nothing to do with her fear of what she was feeling for Oliver. She almost managed to believe it, until the next morning, when she woke up thinking about Oliver's smile, the sound of his laughter, the feeling of safety she'd felt in his arms. And then she knew she was in serious trouble. Emma was reviewing floral decoration proposals when her life officially became a circus. It all started with a call from Sarah, who seemed to be laughing and crying at the same time. Emma, I need to warn you about something. Oliver's great-aunt Margaret is arriving today. Okay, Emma said, not understanding why this sounded like a natural disaster warning. Have you ever heard of Glamourgoes on Instagram? Emma nearly spilled her coffee. The 79-year-old influencer with 3 million followers. That Margaret? The same one, great-aunt Margaret Bennett, known in the digital world as Glamourgoes. And she's decided our wedding will be the event of the century that she's going to document for her followers. Emma sank heavily into her chair. Sarah, do you understand what this means? Cameras everywhere, live streams, millions of people watching every detail. I know. I tried to talk her out of it, but you know Oliver. He has a huge soft spot for Aunt Margaret, and she's already booked her flight. 2 hours later, Emma was standing at the entrance to the Bennett property, watching a private helicopter land on the lawn. Because, of course, Margaret Bennett didn't travel like normal people. The first thing that emerged from the helicopter was a professional drone operated by an assistant who didn't look older than 20. The second was a small, elegant woman with perfectly styled platinum hair, wearing a pink Chanel suit and sunglasses that cost more than Emma's car. "Ollie!" Margaret shouted, running toward her great-nephew with energy that would make people 40 years younger jealous. "My dear boy." Oliver wrapped her in a hug, laughing in a way Emma hadn't seen before, genuine, unguarded, full of affection. "Aunt Margaret, you didn't need to come by helicopter." "Nonsense. At 79, time is luxury. And besides, Jimmy here," she waved to the pilot, "is helping me with content for the channel. Glamour Takes Flight already has 500,000 views." Margaret turned, and her laser eyes immediately located Emma. "And you must be the famous Emma Williams." Margaret marched toward her like a general inspecting troops. "The wedding planner who supposedly doesn't believe in love. What delicious irony." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Bennett. Call me Margaret, or Glamour if you prefer." "Now, dear," Margaret took Emma by the arm, "I need you to tell me everything about how you and my Ollie are pretending you're not crazy about each other." Emma choked. "We're not. I mean, there's nothing." "Oh, please. I'm 79 and have been married 4 times. I can spot sexual tension from miles away." Margaret waved dismissively. "Tyler, get all this on the drone. The audience loves authentic romantic drama." Tyler, the 20-year-old assistant, began positioning cameras like a film director. "Margaret," Oliver intervened, clearly both amused and horrified, "maybe we should focus on Sarah and Josh's wedding?" "Oh, we'll do that too. But darling, you don't understand. My followers are obsessed with real love stories. And this," she gestured between Emma and Oliver, "is better than any reality show." The next 4 hours were a hurricane of activity. Margaret had brought enough equipment to film a feature film. Drones, 4K cameras, professional tripods, and even a Steadicam. She turned every conversation about wedding planning into content for her social media. "Glamour followers," she said to a camera, while Emma tried to explain the floral arrangements. "We're here at the stunning Bennett estate where love is literally blooming. Emma here is creating a dream wedding, but what she doesn't know is she might be planning 2 weddings." Emma froze. "2 weddings?" Margaret winked at the camera. "Stay tuned to find out." In the afternoon, while Emma desperately tried to keep focus on catering decisions, Margaret orchestrated what she called spontaneous content. "Ollie, darling, show Emma the rose garden again. Tyler, get them walking hand in hand." "We're not holding hands," Emma protested. "Not yet," Margaret said, pushing Oliver's hand toward Emma's. "Now you are. Tyler, did you get that?" "Aunt Margaret," Oliver said, trying to maintain patience, "Emma and I have a professional relationship." "What an adorable joke." Margaret laughed to the camera. "Let's see how long this professional relationship lasts when they're alone on the terrace tonight." Emma felt her face burn. "We're not going to be alone on the terrace." "Of course you are, because I'm going to arrange it." Margaret turned to Tyler. "Note, romantic scene on the terrace, 8 o'clock, string lights, soft music." "Margaret," Emma said firmly, "I'm not an actress in your reality show." Margaret stopped and studied her with surprisingly shrewd eyes. "No, dear. You're something much better. You're real. And my Ollie needs real in his life." That evening, after a dinner where Margaret had documented every bite, followers see how they look at each other when they think no one's watching, Emma tried to escape to her room at the local inn. "Where are you going?" Margaret appeared like a genie from a lamp. "To the hotel. It's been a long day." "Nonsense. The night has barely begun. Tyler set up the terrace exactly as I asked. Lights, music, even champagne." "Margaret, I appreciate the effort, but—" "Emma Williams," Margaret said, her voice losing its playful tone. "How old are you?" 32. "And how long has it been since you let someone take care of you?" The question echoed the one Oliver had asked days ago. "I take care of myself." "That's not what I asked." Margaret stepped closer, her eyes gentle despite their intensity. "Dear, I'm 79 years old. I've seen too much love wasted by fear, too much time lost to pride." My great-nephew is a good man, the best I know. And you make him smile in a way I haven't seen in years. Emma felt her throat tighten. It's complicated. The best things always are. Margaret took Emma's hand. Now, go to that terrace. Not for my followers, not for the cameras. Go for yourself. 15 minutes later, Emma found herself walking toward the terrace, where Oliver stood against the balustrade, looking at the stars. The string lights created a magical atmosphere, and there was soft music playing from somewhere she couldn't identify. Did she convince you too? Oliver asked without turning around. She's very persuasive for someone who's 79. Oliver laughed. She's always been like that. When I was a kid, she could convince me to do anything. Emma joined him at the balustrade, keeping a safe distance. Do her followers know she's basically arranging marriages live? Probably. And they probably love it. They stood in silence for a moment, aware of the discreetly positioned cameras but trying to ignore them. Emma, Oliver said softly. About the other night. Oliver, don't. I need to say this. I don't regret what happened. Emma closed her eyes. But you should. Why? Before Emma could answer, her phone rang. Blake. Sorry, she said to Oliver, answering. Blake? Emma, darling, change of plans for tomorrow. How about we have dinner tonight? I just discovered an incredible place in the area. Emma looked at Oliver, who was clearly listening to the conversation. Tonight? Unless you already have plans. Emma saw something change in Oliver's expression. Disappointment, hurt, and something darker. Actually, she said, still looking at Oliver, tonight would be perfect. When she hung up, Oliver was stepping away from the balustrade. Enjoy your dinner, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Oliver, wait. But he had already walked away, leaving Emma alone on the terrace with the romantic lights, the soft music, and the growing feeling that she had just made a huge mistake. In the house, Margaret watched it all through the monitor connected to the terrace cameras. Tyler, she said thoughtfully, I think we need to accelerate our timeline. The dinner with Blake had been exactly what Emma expected. Sophisticated, charming, and completely safe. They talked about art, travel, work. Blake was attentive without being invasive, funny without trying too hard to impress. He was the kind of man any sensible woman would choose. So why couldn't Emma stop thinking about Oliver? The next morning, she arrived at the Bennett property determined to focus only on work. The wedding was in 2 weeks, and there were still thousands of details to finalize. She couldn't afford emotional distractions. That determination lasted exactly 15 minutes. Emma! Sarah's scream echoed through the gardens. Emma, come quick! Emma ran toward the voice and found Sarah, Josh, Oliver, and Margaret standing around a puddle of water that was rapidly spreading across what was supposed to be the dance floor area. The main pipe burst, Josh said, looking ready to panic. The plumbing company said it'll take at least 3 days to fix completely. Emma looked at the flood, her mind already working on solutions. 3 days. They had exactly 14 days until the wedding. Okay, she said, pulling out her phone. Let's fix this. The next 6 hours were coordinated chaos. Emma coordinated 3 different plumbing companies, arranged rental pumps to drain the water, relocated vendors, and reorganized the entire setup schedule. In the middle of all this, Margaret documented every moment for her social media. Glamour followers, she narrated, while Emma frantically gestured to a team of workers. We're witnessing a true professional in action. Emma is saving this wedding like an event superhero. Oliver worked alongside her the entire time, carrying heavy equipment, directing workers where they needed to be, making practical decisions without Emma having to ask. Not like a client watching the chaos, but like a partner helping solve the problem. It was noon when Emma realized she hadn't eaten anything since breakfast. Her hands were shaking from low blood sugar and stress, and she was starting to feel dizzy. Hey, Oliver appeared beside her with a sandwich and a water bottle. Eat this. I don't have time. Emma, his voice was firm. Eat. She took the sandwich, too grateful to protest. Oliver was right. She needed fuel to keep functioning. Thank you, she murmured between bites. When was the last time you slept properly? Emma stopped chewing. What kind of question is that? A question from someone who cares about you. Before Emma could respond, Another drama exploded. The tent company called to say that the previous week's rains had damaged half the equipment they had reserved. "No problem," Emma said into the phone, her voice maintaining calm while internally she was screaming. "We'll find a solution." But when she hung up, her professional mask finally cracked. 2 weeks, she murmured to herself. 2 weeks to reorganize an entire wedding. "Emma," Sarah approached, looking guilty. "No," Emma said quickly. "Don't worry, we'll figure this out. We always do." "But maybe we should postpone." "We're not postponing anything." Emma straightened her shoulders. "Your wedding will happen exactly as planned on the scheduled date, and it will be perfect." Oliver watched her make 3 consecutive phone calls, reorganizing vendors with efficiency that was almost military. There was something about her determination, the way she refused to let chaos defeat her, that made his chest tighten. It was around 5 in the afternoon when the worst happened. Emma was standing in the middle of the garden, coordinating the installation of new drainage pumps when her phone rang. "Emma Williams, this is Bella Vista Catering. I have bad news about your event." Emma closed her eyes, preparing for the next disaster. "Our kitchen had a small fire last night. We won't be able to fulfill the commitment for the 23rd. Emma felt her legs wobble. The catering. How was she going to find catering for 200 people with 2 weeks' notice? "I understand," she said, her voice surprisingly calm. "Thank you for letting me know." When she hung up, she stood in the middle of the garden for a long moment, looking at the confusion around her, workers, equipment, puddles of water, and a family trusting her to make the impossible happen. That's when Oliver approached. "What's the new problem?" "Catering," Emma said simply. "Shit." "Yeah, shit." Oliver studied her face. The pallor, the slightly glazed eyes, the way she was breathing very shallowly. "Emma, you need to sit down." "I can't sit down. I need to find catering for 200 people in 2 weeks. I need to..." Emma started listing tasks on her fingers, her voice getting higher and faster. "I need to confirm the replacement tents. I need to reorganize the setup schedule. Emma, I need to call every catering vendor in New York. I need to check if anyone had a cancellation. Emma!" Oliver grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Breathe." "I can't breathe. I can't. This wedding is falling apart, and I promised it would be perfect, and I never break promises, and now..." "Hey." Oliver's voice was soft but firm. "Look at me." Emma stared at him, and he saw real panic in her eyes. "We're going to fix this," he said calmly, "together, one problem at a time." "How? How are we going to solve 200 meals in 2 weeks?" "We'll figure it out, but first, you're going to breathe." Emma tried, but her breaths came short and shallow. "I can't." Oliver pulled her closer, wrapping her in his arms. "Yes, you can. Breathe with me." Slowly, Emma leaned against his chest, trying to sync her breathing with his. Gradually, the panic began to subside. "Better?" Oliver asked after a few minutes. Emma nodded against his chest, and that's when she noticed they were being watched. Sarah, Josh, Margaret, Tyler with his cameras, and half the work crew. "Great," she murmured. "Now my nervous breakdown is documented." "It wasn't a nervous breakdown," Oliver said, still holding her. "It was a human moment." Emma pulled back slightly to look at him. "Oliver, I love you, Emma." The words came out simply, without fanfare, in the middle of the chaos of equipment and workers and draining water. Emma froze. "What?" "I love you," he repeated, his hands still on her shoulders. "And it doesn't matter what happens with this wedding. I just want you." Emma looked around, at Margaret's cameras, at Sarah and Josh, who were clearly hearing every word, at Tyler, who was probably streaming everything live. "Oliver, you can't..." "Not here, not now." "When then?" His voice was quiet but determined. "When will you stop running? When will you stop using work as an excuse not to feel anything?" "I don't use work as..." "Emma," Oliver placed his hands on her face. "I love you. I love how you dedicate yourself completely to everything you do. I love how you care about the details that make people happy. I love your strength, your determination, and especially I love that you're terrified of loving me back, because that means you feel this too." Emma felt tears burn her eyes. "Oliver, tell me you feel this too." Emma looked into his eyes, saw the vulnerability, the hope, the certainty. Around them, the world had stopped moving. Emma started, then stopped when she noticed the complete silence around them. Margaret was holding her phone, smiling like the cat that ate the canary. "Tyler," she whispered to the assistant, "tell me you got all of that." "Yes, Mum, and the live stream has 500,000 people watching." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. 500,000 people. Margaret waved excitedly at the camera. "Glamour followers, you just witnessed history. A real love declaration, live, in the middle of a wedding crisis. Hashtag true love, hashtag viral moment." Emma looked at Oliver, at the cameras, at the hundreds of thousands of people who had just watched the most vulnerable moment of her life. "We went viral," she said weakly. "Apparently," Oliver said, looking somewhere between amused and horrified. 500,000 people saw you tell me you love me, and saw you not answer," Oliver pointed out gently. Emma took a deep breath, looked directly at Tyler's camera, then at Oliver. "I love you too," she said, her voice clear and firm. "And now the whole world knows." Oliver smiled, that smile that did impossible things to her heart, and kissed her in the middle of the muddy garden, surrounded by construction equipment and 500,000 strangers watching online. When they broke apart, Margaret was applauding. "And that, dear followers, is how you declare real love. Now let's help these lovebirds save this wedding." 6 months after what Margaret had dubbed the viral wedding of the century, Sarah and Josh had married perfectly despite all obstacles. Emma woke up on a Sunday morning in Manhattan with the strange feeling that her life had become unrecognizable. She was living in Oliver's Upper East Side apartment, a change that had happened gradually, one drawer at a time, until one day she realized she hadn't slept in her own apartment for 3 weeks. Her plants were on his windowsill. Her books occupied an entire shelf. Her toothbrush had a permanent place in his bathroom. It was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Oliver said from the kitchen when Emma appeared in her robe, hair messy. "What time is it?" 9:30, you slept like a rock." Emma approached, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. Oliver was standing at the stove, wearing only pajamas, stirring something that smelled incredibly good. "What are you making?" "Pancakes, with blueberries. Your favorites." Emma kissed his shoulder, still half asleep. "What's the occasion?" "Can't I make pancakes for my girlfriend on a Sunday without a special occasion?" "You can, but you usually only cook when you're nervous or planning something." Oliver laughed, but Emma felt his muscles tense slightly. "I'm planning a relaxing Sunday. Is that a crime?" Emma was about to respond when her phone rang. Margaret. "Good morning, Glamour," Emma answered, putting it on speaker. "Emma, darling, is Oliver there?" "I'm here, Aunt Margaret," Oliver called from the kitchen. "Perfect. You two need to check Instagram right now. Tyler posted a compilation of the fans' favorite moments of you two, and it's exploding." Emma and Oliver exchanged glances. Over the past 6 months, they had become something of a social media phenomenon. Margaret regularly documented their romance evolution, and for some inexplicable reason, people couldn't stop watching. "How many views?" Oliver asked, clearly amused. 2 million in the first 4 hours. You're officially the internet's most beloved couple." Emma shook her head, still not believing her personal life had become public entertainment. "Margaret, you promise you'll give us a heads up before coming to film anything today, right? We're planning a quiet day." "Oh dear, don't worry about me. Have your Sunday." "But..." Margaret made a dramatic pause. "Tyler might stop by later to get some couple-at-home footage. Nothing invasive, just you two being naturally adorable." After they hung up, Emma looked suspiciously at Oliver. "Did you plan something with her?" "Why would I plan something with my influencer great-aunt?" "Because you two are conspiratorial when you want to be." Oliver turned and kissed her quickly. "Paranoia doesn't suit you. Now sit there and let me finish these pancakes." Emma sat on the kitchen counter, watching Oliver cook. There was something different about him this morning, a nervous energy he was trying to disguise. She knew him well enough now to notice when he was plotting something. "Oliver, coffee?" he interrupted, already pouring her a cup. "Thanks, but seriously, you're acting weird." "I'm acting normal. You're stirring the pancakes obsessively. They're going to turn out bad." Oliver stopped, looked at the pan, and laughed. "Okay, maybe I'm a little nervous." "Why?" "Because..." Oliver turned off the heat and turned completely toward her. Because today is important. Before Emma could ask why, the doorbell rang. Must be Tyler, Oliver said quickly. Already? Margaret said he'd come by later. Maybe he's early. But when Oliver opened the door, it wasn't just Tyler. Sarah, Josh, Margaret, and at least 5 people Emma didn't recognize entered the apartment carrying cameras, flowers, and what looked like professional sound equipment. What's happening? Emma asked, still in her robe. Surprise, Margaret shouted. Change of plans, we're doing this now. Doing what now? Emma looked at Oliver, who suddenly looked ready to throw up. Oliver, she said slowly. What's happening? Oliver took a deep breath, ran his hand through his hair, and then, to Emma's complete shock, got down on one knee in the kitchen. Emma Williams, he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pajama pocket. Emma felt the world stop. Oh my God, you taught me what real love is, Oliver continued, his voice slightly trembling. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, that trusting someone isn't giving up control. You transformed my life in ways I didn't even know were possible. Emma covered her mouth with her hands, tears already streaming down her face. Oliver, I want to wake up making pancakes for you for the rest of my life. I want to argue with you about wedding details we're going to plan together. I want you to teach me to believe in practical things while I teach you that dreaming isn't dangerous. Oliver opened the box, revealing a ring that made Emma gasp. It was simple and elegant, a solitaire diamond on a platinum band, exactly the style she would have chosen. Will you marry me, Emma Williams? Emma looked at the man kneeling in front of her, then at the cameras, then at Sarah, who was crying, then at Margaret, who was clearly streaming everything live, and then back at Oliver. You're proposing to me in pajamas in our kitchen with 500,000 people watching? Apparently, Oliver laughed nervously. It's very us, isn't it? Emma laughed through her tears. It's completely us. She got up from the counter and knelt in front of him. And yes, of course I'll marry you. Oliver slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, and then kissed her like the world depended on it. Around them, the apartment exploded in applause and cheers. He said yes, Margaret shouted to the camera. I mean, she said yes, glamour followers. You just witnessed a live engagement. Emma and Oliver pulled apart, laughing and crying at the same time. Wait, Emma said suddenly. How did you know the ring size? Sarah helped me. We borrowed one of your rings a few weeks ago. Emma turned to her sister-in-law, who was smiling innocently. You're all conspirators. For a good cause, Sarah said, hugging them both. Josh approached, patting Oliver on the back. Welcome officially to the family, man. Technically, Margaret interrupted, he was already part of the family, but now it's official. And Tyler, tell me you got the angle of her tears. Got everything, Mrs. Bennet. Emma looked at the ring on her finger, then at Oliver, then at the loving chaos around them. You know our entire life is going to be documented on your aunt's social media now, right? Probably, Oliver agreed. Do you mind? Emma thought for a moment. 6 months ago, the idea of having her personal life exposed to millions of strangers would have terrified her. Now it just seemed like another absurd adventure they'd face together. No, she said honestly, as long as it's our crazy life we're sharing. Our crazy life, Oliver repeated, kissing her again. I like the sound of that. Margaret appeared between them, holding her phone. Guys, do you want to say something to the 2 million people watching right now? Emma and Oliver looked at each other and laughed. Thank you for watching our beautiful mess, Emma said to the camera. And get ready, Oliver added, because if you thought the first wedding was chaotic, wait until you see what we're going to pull off at ours. Emma hit his arm, laughing. No spoilers. And so on a Sunday morning in pajamas in the kitchen, with burnt pancakes and 2 million strangers watching, Emma Williams realized she had found exactly the kind of chaotic, imperfect, and absolutely real love she never knew she wanted. 3 months later, Emma was standing in the same room at the Bennet mansion where she had gotten ready to organize Sarah and Josh's wedding. But this time, everything was different. This time, she was the bride. Stop fiddling with the veil, Margaret said, appearing behind her in the mirror. You look perfect. Emma looked at her reflection, the vintage lace dress that had belonged to Oliver's great-grandmother, the family veil that Margaret had insisted she wear, and a smile she couldn't contain even if she wanted to. "I'm nervous," Emma admitted. "Good. It means it matters." Sarah entered the room carrying the bouquet, white and red roses from the property's garden, simple and perfect. "How's our bride?" Terrified and euphoric at the same time. "Also good," Sarah laughed. "Josh was exactly like that at our wedding." Outside, Emma could hear guests arriving, the music starting, the buzz of an event that Margaret had promised would be the most documented wedding in internet history. They had tried to keep it small and intimate, just family and close friends. But when you're dating the cousin of a viral influencer, small and intimate still meant 200 people and media coverage that rivaled celebrity weddings. "It's time," Margaret announced, checking her diamond-studded watch. "Tyler has everything positioned, the drones are in the air, and Oliver is outside looking like a man about to faint from nerves." Emma took a deep breath. "Let's do this." The music changed when Emma appeared at the library entrance. She had insisted on walking alone to the altar, a decision that had generated 3 online articles about the independent bride who's redefining wedding traditions. But when she saw Oliver waiting for her at the end of the aisle, all the cameras, all the guests, all the circus disappeared. There was just him, handsome in his navy tuxedo, with tears in his eyes, and that smile that still did impossible things to her heart. Emma walked toward him to the rhythm of an acoustic version of La Vie en Rose, a choice that had made Oliver cry when she suggested it. Each step brought her closer not just to him, but to the life they had built together, the partnership they had created, the love that had grown from skepticism to become the most real thing she had ever experienced. When she reached the altar, Oliver extended his hand. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," she whispered back. The Reverend, a Bennett family friend, smiled at them both. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." Emma barely heard the traditional words. She was too busy looking at Oliver, memorizing this moment, thinking about how they had gotten here, from a tense conversation in a restaurant to promising their lives to each other. "Emma and Oliver have chosen to write their own vows," the Reverend announced. Oliver went first, pulling a folded paper from his pocket. "Emma," he began, his voice clear despite the emotion. "You taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be better. You taught me that vulnerability is strength, that trusting is courage, and that sometimes the best things in life begin when we stop trying to control them." Emma felt warm tears streaming down her face. "I promised to spend the rest of my life proving you were wrong about love being temporary. I promise to be your partner in all adventures, dream organizer and mess cleaner for whatever life brings us. And I promise never again to let you organize a wedding alone, especially ours." The crowd laughed, and Emma wiped away tears before taking out her own vows. "Oliver," she began, her voice trembling slightly. 6 months ago, I would have sworn that love was just well-executed marketing. You proved me spectacularly wrong." More laughter from the audience. "You taught me it's possible to be strong and vulnerable at the same time, that trusting someone doesn't mean losing your independence, that sometimes the best plans are those that include room for the unexpected." Emma paused, looking directly into his eyes. "I promise to build a life with you that's as real as it is complicated, as stable as it is adventurous. I promise to be your partner in business and in life, organizer of your dreams and the person who will always believe in us. And I promise that our future weddings, I mean the weddings we'll organize for other people, will be even more incredible because we'll plan them together." When they exchanged rings, Emma noticed that Oliver had engraved a small inscription on his, "Worth the complication." "By the power vested in me by the state of New York," the Reverend declared, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Oliver, you may kiss your bride." Oliver didn't need a second invitation. He kissed Emma like it was the first and last time, like he wanted to prove to an entire world that real love wasn't performance. It was this. It was choosing someone every day. It was building something together. It was finding your place in the world, in another person. When they broke apart, the sky exploded, literally. Margaret had hired a fireworks show synchronized with drones that projected hearts and stars in the afternoon sky. Meanwhile, the cake, which Oliver had secretly commissioned to play La Vie en Rose when cut, began playing the melody that had become their song. "You ordered a musical cake?" Emma shouted over the noise of the fireworks. "You organized synchronized drone fireworks," Oliver shouted back. "That was Margaret. Margaret also suggested the cake." They laughed, kissed again, and turned to the crowd of family, friends, and cameras that documented every second of what Margaret was narrating as the most magical wedding in internet history. During the reception, Emma danced with Oliver in the same ballroom where she had organized dozens of weddings, but this time she wasn't worried about schedules or vendors or whether everything was running perfectly. This time she was just present, in the moment, in the music, in the arms of the man who had transformed her entire life. "Any regrets?" Oliver asked as they spun on the dance floor. Emma looked around, at Margaret directing 3 different cameras, at Sarah and Josh dancing beside them, at the guests who were clearly having fun at a party that somehow managed to be intimate despite the circus. "Just one," she said. "What?" "That it took me so long to accept you were right." "About what?" "About love being real, about being worth the complication, about—" Emma smiled. "About everything." Oliver spun her, then pulled her back into his arms. "For the record, you were also right about some things." "Like what?" "Love is work. Relationships require planning. And sometimes," he kissed her forehead, "the best things in life happen when you hire the right organizer." Emma laughed, resting her head on his shoulder. "I think we just organized the perfect wedding." "I think we just started the perfect marriage," Oliver corrected. And there, dancing in the ballroom full of flowers she had chosen, music they had selected together, and love they had built one difficult day at a time, Emma Williams Bennett finally understood the difference between organizing dreams and living one. Later that night, when the last guests had gone home and the cameras had been turned off, Emma and Oliver sat on the mansion's porch, still dressed as bride and groom, sharing a bottle of champagne and watching the stars. "So," Oliver said, "what's the next project?" Emma smiled, snuggling closer to him. "How about we organize our life?" "Sounds like the perfect plan." And for the first time in her life, Emma Williams Bennett was completely certain that some plans were even better when they included room for the unexpected, for love, and for all kinds of beautiful complications that made life worth living. Emma had spent years believing that love was just a well-packaged product, an illusion sold at expensive ceremonies. But there, in Oliver's arms, she discovered that true love isn't about eliminating life's complications. It's about finding someone who's worth every single one of them. Sometimes we need to stop trying to control every detail to discover that the best stories are the ones we write together, with open hearts and willingness to believe that some happy endings are real. Emma learned that organizing dreams is beautiful, but living your own dream is extraordinary. Because in the end, we're all looking for someone who sees us completely, fears, flaws, dreams and all, and still chooses to stay. And maybe deep down, this story speaks to each one of us too. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. And if it was worth every minute, leave a "totally worth it." It helps keep this universe of emotions alive here.